Wearing her dress was just a dare. At least that's how it started. And if anyone had told me how far it would go, how much it would change me, I would have laughed in their face. I didn't even want to do it. It was my friend's idea, one of those reckless late-night dares where everyone pushes boundaries just for the thrill. They thought it would be funny if I tried on one of my sister's dresses, snapped a picture, and sent it to the group chat. I told them it was stupid, but they teased me until I gave in. I still remember sneaking into my sister's room, the air heavy with her perfume, my hands trembling as I opened her wardrobe. There was a soft blue dress, light, flowing, the kind of thing she wore when she wanted to look pretty without trying too hard. I held it up, the fabric cool against my skin, and something in me hesitated. Not just from fear of being caught, but from a strange pull I couldn't explain. I slipped it on quickly, thinking I would just snap the picture and get it over with. But the moment it fell into place, brushing against my legs, it felt so different, so unreal. My reflection in the mirror wasn't just me, it was me, but softer, hidden, almost like a secret I hadn't let myself see. My heart raced, not from the dare anymore, but from something deeper I couldn't even name. And then it happened before I could take it off, before I could erase the mistake. She walked in. My sister. She froze in the doorway, her eyes wide, her hand gripping the handle like she wasn't sure if she should shut it again. I panicked, words tumbling out of my mouth, excuses, apologies, anything to explain why I was wearing her dress. But she didn't yell, didn't laugh, didn't even smirk. She just stared at me in silence, and that silence felt heavier than anything else in the world. Finally, she whispered, "Why do you look right in it?" That question cut deeper than if she had screamed. I didn't have an answer. I wanted to say it was just a dare, just a joke, but the truth lodged in my throat. Because deep down, something about her words was true. I looked right, and I hated that I couldn't deny it. She stepped closer, her expression softening, and instead of anger, she reached for my hand. "If you wanted to try, you could have just asked," she said quietly. My whole body tensed. Try? As if this was something I had secretly wanted all along. I laughed nervously, shaking my head, insisting it wasn't like that, but she didn't believe me. She never did. That night, she didn't tell our parents, didn't share it with her friends, didn't use it against me. Instead, she left me with that haunting question, and the weight of it followed me everywhere. I couldn't stop thinking about the reflection I saw in her mirror, the strange calm that came with it, the way her words lingered. "You look right in it." Days passed, then weeks, and I thought maybe the whole thing would fade. But she wouldn't let it. She started dropping hints, leaving a hair tie on my desk, sliding magazines with fashion spreads under my door, making comments like, "That color would look good on you." Each time, I pushed back, denied it, laughed it off, but inside, I was crumbling. Because part of me wanted to know what it meant, wanted to know if maybe she was right. The suspense of hiding it all, the fear of being discovered again, made my chest tight every day. But one evening, she cornered me. "I dare you again," she said with a grin, holding another dress, this time red, bold, the kind of thing you'd wear when you wanted everyone to look at you. "If it was just a joke, prove it. Wear this. Just for me." My stomach dropped, but refusing felt impossible. So I did. And when I turned to the mirror this time, she didn't even try to hide her smile. "See? It's not a joke," she whispered. And in that moment, I hated her and loved her for seeing something I couldn't admit. Slowly, she became my secret ally, my accomplice in something I wasn't brave enough to name. She showed me how to stand, how to walk, how to carry myself in ways that felt terrifying yet freeing. Every night felt like a performance, a hidden rehearsal for a life I wasn't sure I wanted but couldn't walk away from either. The suspense built with every secret meeting, every dress, every borrowed moment. I lived in constant fear of being caught, but I also couldn't stop. Until the night, she pushed me further than I ever thought I'd go. "Come with me," she said, her eyes gleaming. "Just once. Outside." My legs went weak. Outside? Where people could see me. Where there'd be no way to explain. But she was relentless. She curled my hair, painted my lips, zipped me into another one of her dresses, and when she was done, I barely recognized myself. I wasn't just me in a dress. I was someone else entirely. My reflection looked like a stranger I had always known but never met. I told her no, begged her to let me stop there, but she took my hand and whispered, "You'll regret it if you never try." So we went. Just a short walk down the street, she promised. My heart pounded so loud, I thought the neighbors could hear it. Every step felt like a spotlight, every glance like exposure. But then something strange happened. No one stared. No one pointed. To them, I was just another girl walking beside her sister. That realization hit harder than anything else. For the first time, I wasn't hiding, I was blending in. I can't even explain the rush, the mix of fear and freedom, the weight and the release all at once. When we got home, I collapsed, shaking, overwhelmed by everything I felt. And that's when she looked at me with such seriousness I'll never forget. "This isn't just a dare anymore," she said. "You need to figure out what it means." I wanted to argue, deny, escape, but I couldn't, because she was right. Wearing her dress had been just a dare, but now it was a door. A door I had opened, a door I couldn't close, no matter how much I tried. From then on, every day was a battle. Who was I? What did I want? Was this just curiosity, or something bigger? I kept telling myself it was nothing, but every time I saw her smile knowingly, every time I looked at the hidden photos she took of me dressed up, I knew it wasn't nothing. The secret grew heavier, and so did the suspense. I was terrified of our parents finding out, of my friends knowing, of the world seeing. But more than that, I was terrified of myself, of what it meant if I admitted I liked it. And yet, late at night, when it was quiet, I would find myself touching the fabric, remembering the feeling, wondering if maybe that reflection wasn't a lie. The story doesn't end neatly because it's not the kind of story that has a clean ending. It's messy, complicated, filled with fear and hope tangled together. But I can tell you this, that one dare changed everything. It forced me to see a side of myself I had buried, a truth I wasn't ready for, a journey I never expected. And the suspense of hiding it all, of slowly stepping closer to who I might really be, is something I still carry every day. Because sometimes the things that start as jokes, as dares, as accidents, become the very things that define us. And wearing her dress wasn't just a dare anymore. It was the first time I caught a glimpse of the person I might have always been. After that night, nothing in my life felt the same anymore. I would walk through the house pretending everything was normal, but every glance in the mirror betrayed me. I couldn't unsee what I had seen. I couldn't forget the way the fabric had moved with me, the way my sister's words had dug into my chest like a truth I wasn't ready to admit. I told myself it was a phase, that I'd just ignore it until it went away, but ignoring it felt like trying to hold my breath forever. I was suffocating. And the worst part? My sister knew. She never said it outright, never told me she was watching me struggle, but her eyes always carried this secret understanding. Every time she caught me hesitating, every time she saw me flinch at my own reflection, she seemed to know what I was hiding from myself. One evening, she came into my room without knocking, carrying a box. I panicked, thinking maybe she was going to expose me, but instead she set it down on my bed. "This is for you," she said softly. I opened it, and inside was a dress not hers, not borrowed, but new, simple, mine. My throat tightened. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, but she didn't answer the question. She just looked at me and said, "Because I think you need it." I wanted to shove it away, deny everything, but my hands betrayed me. I touched it, feeling the fabric between my fingers, and suddenly my chest ached with a mix of fear and longing. That night, when the house was silent, I tried it on. Not because of a dare, not because anyone told me to, but because I wanted to. That scared me more than anything. The next morning, I couldn't even look her in the eye. I was terrified she'd see the truth written all over my face. But instead, she gave me the kind of smile that said she already knew. That smile kept me alive in the days that followed, because inside, I was drowning. I didn't know what I was becoming. I didn't know if there was a name for it, or if it even mattered. All I knew was that pretending to be fine was tearing me apart. The suspense of it all grew unbearable when one of my friends made a casual joke. We were hanging out, and one of them said, "Hey, remember when you wore that dress for the dare? That was hilarious." I laughed along, forcing the sound out of my throat, but inside my stomach twisted. They thought it was just a joke, something to laugh about and move on from, but for me, it was no longer a joke. It was everything. That laugh I forced out that day felt like betrayal, not of them, but of myself. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I told my sister the truth, or at least part of it. I sat on the edge of her bed, my voice trembling, and admitted, "It's not just about the dare. I don't know why, but when I wear those clothes, it feels like me. Like the me I'm not supposed to be." My eyes filled with tears before I even realized it. She didn't laugh, didn't make it heavy with silence this time. She just pulled me into her arms and whispered, "Then maybe that is you." Her acceptance should have made it easier, but in some ways it made it harder, because now the question wasn't whether I wanted it. The question was whether I was brave enough to live it. The thought of my parents finding out, of my friends discovering the truth, made me sick with fear. I imagined the whispers, the stares, the shame. But every time I thought about going back, about locking that part of myself away, I felt hollow. My sister began helping me more deliberately after that. She taught me how to do makeup, showed me how to style my hair differently, guided me through the little things that made me feel more real. At first, I thought it was just play, just exploration, but soon those moments became the only times I felt alive. It was like stepping into a secret world where I wasn't pretending anymore, even if it lasted only an hour or two. But the suspense grew heavier every day. Secrets don't stay hidden forever, and I knew mine was fragile. One mistake, one slip, and everything could collapse. That moment came sooner than I expected. One afternoon, I thought I was alone in the house. My sister had gone out, my parents were at work, and I took the chance to dress up fully head to toe. I wanted to see myself completely, without holding back. I stood in front of the mirror, heart pounding, almost unrecognizable yet more myself than ever. I spun slowly, watching the skirt flow around me, and for a moment, I forgot the fear. But then the sound of the front door opening froze me. My blood went cold. I tried to run, tried to change back, but it was too late. My mom's voice called my name, footsteps coming closer, and before I could escape, she walked in. The silence that followed was unbearable. Her eyes widened, scanning me, the makeup, the dress, everything. I couldn't breathe. My entire world tilted. I wanted to scream, to disappear, to beg her not to see me. But she did. She saw all of me. My hands shook, my lips trembled, and the only thing I managed to whisper was, "I can't explain." Her face shifted through a dozen emotions: shock, confusion, something close to fear. She didn't yell, but her silence felt worse than yelling. Finally, she said, "Take it off," her voice tight, almost breaking. And I did. My hands fumbled with the zipper, tears blurring my vision, shame crushing me. I couldn't meet her eyes. She left without another word, and the sound of the door closing behind her felt like the sound of my heart shattering. That night, I thought it was over. I thought I had ruined everything. I wanted to pack everything away, erase it, bury it so deep that no one could ever find it again. But my sister didn't let me. She sat by me, held my hand, and said, "It's not the end. It's the beginning. She just needs time." I wanted to believe her, but all I felt was fear. Days turned into weeks, and the house became heavy with tension. My mom avoided the topic, avoided me in ways that hurt more than words. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, she began to soften. Little by little, she started asking questions. Not kind ones at first, but questions nonetheless.
Why?
When did this start? Is it just a phase? I didn't have the answers, but my honesty chipped away at her fear. She didn't understand, not fully, but she tried. And that trying was more than I could have hoped for. Looking back now, it all began with that single dare. A silly, thoughtless dare that uncovered something I didn't even know I was searching for. What was supposed to be a joke became the key to a truth I couldn't ignore. And though the road ahead is uncertain, though every day still feels like walking on a tightrope between fear and freedom, I know one thing for sure. I can't go back. Because once you see yourself clearly, even just for a moment, you can't unsee it. And wearing her dress wasn't just a dare anymore, it was the first step toward becoming who I really am. I thought surviving my mother finding out was the worst it could get, but I was wrong. Secrets have a way of leaking, of slipping out through cracks you didn't even notice, and once they're out, you can't control where they go. At first, I thought I was safe. My mom didn't tell anyone, my sister stayed loyal, and I did everything I could to act normal outside. But inside, I was a storm. Every day at school, I'd catch myself looking at the girls in my class, not with envy exactly, but with a quiet ache. The way their hair swayed, the way they laughed in groups, the way they seemed so natural in clothes I could only borrow in secret. And I kept asking myself, what would it feel like if I didn't have to pretend? That thought scared me more than anything. But then came the mistake. My sister had been taking photos of me during our sessions, little keepsakes that were supposed to stay private. They were innocent, not meant for anyone but us, but one of them slipped. She swore she didn't mean to, but somehow, one photo ended up in her phone's gallery where her best friend saw it. Her best friend, who had a reputation for never keeping her mouth shut. When my sister told me what happened, I felt my whole body go numb. She promised not to say anything, she whispered, but I could hear the doubt in her voice. 2 days later, whispers started at school.
At first, I didn't connect them to me.
A group of kids snickering in the hallway, someone giggling when I passed by, a smirk I didn't understand. But then I heard it. One of the boys in my class leaned to another and whispered just loud enough, "You think he'll wear that dress to prom too?" My blood froze. My stomach twisted so violently I thought I would throw up right there. The photo was out. Someone had seen it. Maybe everyone had. I wanted to run, to vanish, to never show my face again. Every hallway became a gauntlet, every laugh a dagger. The suspense of not knowing who had seen, who knew, who was judging me, nearly broke me. My grades slipped, I stopped eating, I avoided everyone, even my closest friends. The worst part was the fear that my parents would hear about it before I could explain. Every time my phone buzzed, I thought it would be my dad demanding answers. Every time the landline rang, I thought it would be some parent calling to warn them. And then came the confrontation I had dreaded. After school one day, a group of boys cornered me near the lockers. They weren't smiling. One of them shoved me lightly against the wall, not enough to hurt but enough to scare me. "So," he sneered, "is it true? You like wearing dresses now?" My throat went dry, my vision blurred, and I didn't know what to say. Denying it felt pointless, but admitting it felt like social suicide. I stammered, it was just a dare. The same excuse I had used from the beginning, but the words felt empty. They laughed, harsh and cruel, the kind of laughter that stays with you forever. I went home that day ready to burn everything, to erase the side of me that caused this mess. I told my sister it was over, that I hated it, that I hated myself. She cried when I said that, begged me not to bury what made me happy, but I couldn't hear her. I locked everything away, the clothes, the makeup, even the courage she had given me. I wanted to disappear. But here's the thing about truth. Once it's out, once you've tasted even a glimpse of living it, it never really goes away. I thought I could hide it again, bury it, but every time I looked at myself, I saw the ghost of who I had been. Every night, I lay awake replaying the moment in the mirror, when I had looked right, when I had felt whole, and the ache in my chest grew unbearable. Then came the day that changed everything again. A girl from my class, someone I barely talked to, slipped me a note. I was terrified it was another cruel joke, but when I unfolded it, the words nearly made me cry. It said, "Don't let them break you. I think you're brave." That note, simple as it was, cracked something open inside me. For the first time, I realized not everyone was laughing. Not everyone was against me.
Someone saw me.
Someone believed me. That small act of kindness gave me a kind of courage I didn't know I had. I started dressing again. Not every day, not openly, but enough to remind myself of who I was. I walked through school with my head a little higher, even when I felt like breaking inside. And slowly, things began to shift. The whispers didn't stop, the stares didn't disappear, but I wasn't hiding anymore. I was surviving. Looking back now, I realize how fragile it all was, how close I came to giving up completely. But wearing her dress had never been just a dare, it had been the spark of something much bigger, something that scared me but also saved me. And though the road ahead is uncertain, though the fear still lingers, I know this. I'm not a joke. I'm not a dare. I'm someone finding the courage to be seen, even when the world wants me to hide. And that truth, however messy, however terrifying, is mine. The weeks after the whispers spread felt endless, like I was walking through a storm with no shelter. Every time I entered the classroom, I felt eyes on me. Some full of pity, some full of ridicule. I kept telling myself it was just school, just noise, that it would pass eventually, but the truth was, it was eating me alive. My sister never left my side during those days. She walked with me in the hallways, dared anyone to mess with me, but even her presence couldn't silence the weight pressing down on my chest. I was stuck between two worlds, hated in one, and not brave enough to fully step into the other. Then came the announcement that would change everything.
Prom.
The word echoed through the school halls like a drumbeat, and for everyone else, it was just excitement, plans, dresses, tuxes, music. But for me, it was terror. I didn't even want to go. The thought of showing up in a suit pretending to be someone I wasn't made me sick. But the idea of not going, of hiding away and letting them win, made me feel even worse. My sister was the one who pushed me. "This is your chance," she said, her eyes burning with conviction. "They already think they know your secret. So show them. On your terms." At first, I laughed in her face. "Are you insane? You wanted to walk into prom dressed up? They'll eat me alive." But she didn't back down. She placed her hands on my shoulders and whispered, "Or they'll finally see you." For nights, I couldn't sleep. The idea haunted me, terrified me, but deep down, it also lit something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Could I really do it? Could I really walk into that gym and face everyone not as their joke, but as myself? The thought made my hands shake, my heart pound, but it also made me feel alive. The day of prom came faster than I expected. While everyone else was taking pictures in suits and gowns, I sat in my room staring at the choice my sister had laid out on the bed, a dress she had helped me pick, not flashy, not over the top, but elegant, soft, undeniably feminine. I held it in my hands for what felt like hours, debating, fighting myself. Finally, I closed my eyes, took the deepest breath of my life, and slipped it on. My sister worked on my hair, did my makeup, and when she stepped back, tears filled her eyes. "You're beautiful," she whispered. Walking out of the house felt like stepping off a cliff. Every step toward that gymnasium felt heavier than the last. By the time we reached the doors, my legs were trembling so badly I thought they would give out. But my sister squeezed my hand and said, "Remember, this is your story, not theirs." When we walked in, the music was blasting, lights flashing, laughter filling the air. And then silence. A wave of silence that spread through the crowd like fire. Heads turned, eyes widened, and for a second I thought I would faint. My breath caught in my throat as dozens of people stared, whispers erupting like sparks in every corner. I wanted to run, but I forced myself to stand tall, even as fear ripped through me. And then it happened. From across the room, a girl I barely knew stepped forward. She smiled, genuine, kind, and started clapping. The sound was small at first, drowned by the whispers, but then another joined, and another. Soon, the clapping grew louder, filling the room, breaking the tension. I couldn't believe it. Not everyone was mocking me.
Some were supporting me.
The boys who had shoved me weeks earlier stood in the corner, scowling, but they were drowned out by the sound of applause, by the faces of people who didn't laugh this time. I felt my chest loosen for the first time in months. For the first time, I wasn't hiding. I wasn't someone's dare. I was me. The rest of the night wasn't perfect. There were still whispers, still stares, but I danced. I danced with my sister, I danced with the few people brave enough to join me, and I laughed, really laughed, because for once I wasn't pretending. When I came home that night, my mom was waiting. My heart sank, ready for another fight, another lecture, but she just looked at me for a long time. Finally, she said, "You seemed happy tonight." I nodded, too scared to speak. She sighed, her eyes softening, and whispered, "I don't understand it, but maybe I don't have to. I just don't want to lose you." That broke me. I collapsed into her arms, sobbing, because for the first time I realized she wasn't rejecting me, she was trying to love me, even if she didn't fully understand. And that's the thing I'll never forget. Wearing her dress started as a dare, a joke, a secret that almost destroyed me. But it became the thread that stitched me back together. It forced me to face who I was, to risk everything, to discover courage I didn't know I had. And though the journey is far from over, I know one thing: I'll never be just a dare again. I'll be me, no matter how long it takes, no matter how many whispers follow me. Because when she saw me that first night and said, "You look right in it," she wasn't wrong. She was telling me the truth I had been too afraid to see. After prom, things didn't magically fix themselves. Movies always make it look like one grand gesture is enough to change everything, but life doesn't work like that. The next morning, I still woke up with fear in my chest, still felt the weight of whispers and the sting of judgment. But something inside me was different. I wasn't running anymore. The closet door I had been pushing shut for so long had swung open, and no matter how messy, no matter how terrifying, I wasn't going back inside. School stayed complicated. Some people avoided me completely, others mocked me behind my back, but there were also moments of unexpected kindness. That girl who had slipped me the note? She became one of my closest friends. She never asked questions that hurt, never treated me like I was broken, she just accepted me. And slowly, others followed her lead. Acceptance didn't come all at once. It came in small, fragile pieces, like someone offering you a seat at lunch when everyone else turned away, or someone defending you when the whispers got too loud. Those little pieces built a foundation I could stand on. At home, the silence between my mom and me started to change. She began asking me what I needed, not with ease, but with effort, and I realized effort matters more than perfection. My dad, he was harder. When he found out, he didn't yell, but the disappointment in his eyes cut deeper than shouting ever could. For months, we barely spoke. He tiptoed around me, like I was someone he didn't recognize, someone he wasn't sure he wanted to. That was its own kind of pain, the quiet kind that eats you alive. But over time, even he began to soften. Not with words, he was never good with words, but with gestures. Driving me to places without asking why, sitting through awkward dinners without judgment. It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but it was a start. College was the real turning point. I left my small town behind, the narrow hallways filled with rumors and old labels, and stepped into a place where no one knew me. For the first time, I had the chance to choose who I wanted to be without the weight of past mistakes or dares gone too far. I thought I'd be terrified, but instead, I felt free. I introduced myself not as the person I had been forced to be, but as the person I had fought to see in the mirror. Some people raised eyebrows, some didn't understand, but there were others, many others, who simply accepted me as I was. The first time I walked into class in a dress of my own, bought with my own money, styled the way I wanted, my hands shook the whole time. But when no one laughed, when no one whispered, when people just treated me like anyone else, I thought back to that first dare. How something so small, so careless, had opened a door to the life I was living now. And years later, when I visited home, my sister hugged me the same way she always had, whispering, "I told you this was you." My mom kissed my cheek and told me she was proud. Even my dad, awkward and quiet, looked me in the eye and said, "You seem happy." And in that moment, I realized everything I had endured, the whispers, the shame, the tears, had led to this. Wearing her dress had been just a dare. A stupid game between friends. But it became the spark that set fire to my entire life. It forced me to question who I was, to face rejection, to endure pain, but also to discover strength I didn't know I had. It showed me the cruelty of people, but also the kindness hiding in unexpected places. It gave me the courage to stand in front of mirrors, in front of crowds, in front of the people who mattered most and say, "This is me." And now, when I look back, I don't see a joke, or a mistake, or something to be ashamed of. I see the beginning of a story that's still unfolding. A story of someone who almost gave up, but didn't. A story of someone who turned a dare into a destiny. Because the truth is, it was never just about the dress. It was about finding myself layer by layer, piece by piece, thread by thread. And though the journey is far from over, I know one thing. I'll never again let anyone tell me who I should be. Because I already saw it in the mirror that first night, and now the whole world can see it too. I always thought the hardest part of wearing that dress would be the laughter, the pointing fingers, the whispers behind my back. But I was wrong. The hardest part wasn't the outside world, it was looking at myself in the mirror and realizing that I couldn't unsee what I saw. It was realizing that maybe this wasn't just a game, or a dare, or a mistake. Maybe it was the first time I had been honest with myself in years. But honesty came with a price, and for a long time, I wasn't sure I was brave enough to pay it. For weeks after that night, I lived in two different worlds. In one world, I was the boy everyone expected me to be, cracking jokes, pretending to be unaffected, pretending the dare had been just a silly stunt that didn't mean anything. But in the other world, the secret world, I kept replaying the moment she saw me in that dress. The way her eyes softened, the way she didn't laugh like everyone else did, the way her silence spoke louder than any scream. It haunted me, not because it was painful, but because it was comforting. I couldn't decide if I should run from that comfort or run toward it. One evening, I was sitting on my bed with the dress folded neatly beside me, as though it had become some sacred relic. I didn't even dare wear it again. Just touching the fabric made my heart race. Because I knew it held power over me. That's when my door creaked open, and she stepped inside. Her eyes flickered to the bed, then to me. She didn't smile, but she didn't frown either. She just looked, waiting for me to say something. "I kept it," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I know," she said softly. The silence between us was thick, but not cold. It was the kind of silence where words weren't needed, where emotions filled the air like static. Then she sat down beside me, her hand brushing against the fabric. "You looked happy that night," she said carefully, as though each word might shatter me. Not just embarrassed. Not just nervous. Something else. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "I don't know what it was." "Yes, you do," she replied gently, turning her head to face me. Her eyes were steady, grounding me, refusing to let me escape. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. My chest felt like it was going to burst from all the things I'd kept hidden, all the questions I'd been too afraid to ask. Finally, I whispered, "What if wearing that dress felt more real than anything else? What if I liked it too much?" Her hand tightened on mine, firm and reassuring. "Then that's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to understand, to explore." Her words cracked something open inside me. Tears blurred my vision, but I didn't wipe them away. I let them fall because for once I didn't feel weak for crying. I felt seen. In the days that followed, she became my quiet ally. Not pushing, not pulling, just standing beside me. Sometimes we'd talk for hours, sometimes we'd sit in silence. And sometimes, when the house was empty, she'd hand me the dress again, or something else she thought I might like. A blouse, a skirt, even a pair of shoes she no longer wore. And each time, when I slipped into them, the fear shrank a little more. But the world outside wasn't as forgiving. Words spread about the dare, and whispers still followed me down hallways. Some people mocked me, others avoided me, and a few looked at me with curiosity I couldn't decipher. I thought I'd drown under their judgment, but every time I wanted to give up, I remembered the way she had looked at me. Not with ridicule, not with pity, with something close to acceptance. That look kept me afloat. Then came the night everything changed. A school event. Crowds, laughter, music. And her by my side. She leaned close to me and whispered, "Do you trust me?" I hesitated, But then I nodded. Then come with me. Before I knew it, she was leading me backstage, her hand wrapped tightly around mine. She had a bag with her, and when she opened it, I froze. Inside was another dress. Elegant but simple. Not a costume, not a joke, something real. Something that belonged on someone who wanted to be seen. I can't, I whispered, panic rushing through me. Not here. Not in front of everyone. She looked at me with a calm fierceness that made my chest ache. You already wore one once, and they all saw. The difference is this time, it's your choice. Not a dare. Not a joke. Yours. My legs shook, my breathing quickened, but somewhere deep down I knew she was right. And maybe that was the night I stopped running. With trembling hands, I changed. My reflection stared back at me, familiar yet unfamiliar, frightening yet comforting. My pulse thundered in my ears as the music outside swelled. Then she took my hand again and led me out. The lights were blinding, the crowd buzzing. At first, I thought I'd collapse under the weight of their stares. But then something happened I'll never forget. A hush. A pause. And in that silence, I realized I wasn't just the butt of a dare anymore. I was something else. Someone else. And even if not everyone understood, even if some laughed, even if some whispered, it didn't matter. Because she was there, her hand still holding mine, grounding me, reminding me that I wasn't alone. And for the first time, I didn't want to hide. Looking back now, it's almost absurd. How could one dare, one reckless moment, change the entire trajectory of my life?
But it did.
Wearing her dress was supposed to humiliate me, to break me down. Instead, it cracked me open. It showed me a truth I never dared face, and it gave me the courage to take my first step toward becoming myself. And all because she saw me not as a joke, not as a mistake, but as someone worth knowing. So, if you're wondering whether one moment can change everything, believe me when I say this. It can. Because it did for me.